Could have been. But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up and take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So I've got a couple of things to go over with you. First on the docket, more official visits for the Washington Commanders. Remember, each team in the league gets 30 official team visits. We went through 11 of them last Thursday on the live show. They added 2 more names yesterday. We talked about those 2 guys, DJ Turner, cornerback out of Michigan, and also Brian Branch, the safety hybrid nickel out of Alabama. Now 5 more names have been added to the list. Jartavis Martin, a.k.a. Quan Martin, safety linebacker hybrid out of Illinois. He's more of a nickel. We'll talk about him. Ronnie Brown, running back out of Shepherd. I really, truly think that they ran into him going to scout Tyson Bagent, the quarterback from Shepherd. He was actually at the combine. A lot of people impressed by him. I think they went to his pro day to see him, ran into Ronnie Brown, the running back, and decided to bring him for a visit. So we'll talk about him briefly. Dorian Williams, someone brought him up on the show last week and said, hey, I really like Dorian Williams, linebacker out of Tulane. I said, all right, I'll add him to the list. I'll take a look at him. Had a chance to do that. I'll give you my thoughts on him. Chase Brown, running back out of Illinois. Absolutely love this kid. He's exactly what we're looking for, exactly the kind of running back that we should be looking to add to our running back room. I think he would complete our running back room. 5'9", right, roughly around 205 pounds. Ran a 4.4, I think it was a 4.42, 4.43, something like that, low 4.4s at the combine. Huge production last year, over 300 carries. That's a lot of carries, but we wouldn't be looking for him to tote the rock like that if he came to Washington. And really his biggest deficiency to me is something that we wouldn't really truly ask him to do here in Washington. So I think he fits everything that we're looking for. It makes a ton of sense that they decided to have him in for a visit. And then Kyle Soule, a linebacker out of Arizona State. Not impressed at all with this dude. Tall, angular linebacker, solid athlete, doesn't really move the needle for me. He's someone you either get late rounds or he goes undrafted and you show interest now and you're one of the teams that he decides to sign with after the draft. So I wasn't impressed with him. But, again, what do I know at the linebacker position? It's the one position that I always tell you is the hardest to evaluate in college football because you're not really sure what those guys are being taught to do, what they're being asked to do in their defensive scheme. And, a lot of these guys are, moving from different positions and they're still learning. And so it's hard to really evaluate linebackers sometimes. Sometimes you're just going off the athleticism and saying, hey, we can teach him how to be the best version of himself in our scheme. And so anyway, Jartavis Martin, love this guy. I think we should go shopping at the Illinois store. Everyone's talking about Devin Witherspoon and Devon Witherspoon, and rightfully so. Really good football player, will be one of the top corners to go off the board in this year's draft class. But Quan Martin at Illinois was a nickel, physical player, had some ball production this year. One of the themes of the offseason for Ron Rivera, we need more guys that take the football away. Well, Quan Martin is a guy that can do that. They're looking for another hybrid player a la Cam Curl to bring into this defense. Everyone just assumes Cam Curl is going to get broken off and they're going to pay him. There's no guarantee that he gets paid. They may be looking for a guy that can do all the things that Cam Curl can do, but can do it in a package that makes plays on the football or is a little bit more impactful. I think they want Cam Curl around. I think they ultimately are going to pay him. But they obviously saw that there's a void on this team for another guy that can do some of the things that Cam Curl can do. So Quan Martin makes a ton of sense. Really like his game. He's a 5'11", 200-pound hybrid nickel / backer / safety that can, play all around the field and be physical, can attack the football. Also ran a sub 4.5, right? He ran like a 4.46 or 4.43 or something like that. So you're talking about a tremendous athlete as well. So that guy fits in what we're looking for. I think he's a 3rd round guy. And so there's going to be some decisions that have to be made in the 3rd round, especially if he is available in what is a very thin, if you consider him a safety, thin safety draft class. If you consider him a safety, he's going to be gone rather quickly because there aren't many safeties. I've already talked about it. This is a toothpick, razor thin, dental floss thin safety position group to pick from in this year's draft class. Ronnie Brown, running back out of Shepherd. Like I said, Tyson Bagent is the quarterback of that team. A lot of people were impressed with him at the combine. So I think Washington sent, because I told you, we're interested in quarterback late in the draft. Tyson Bagent is going to be a day 3 quarterback that's selected. And so Washington, doing their due diligence, probably sent some scouts there to go check out their pro day. And voila, they run into this kid, Ronnie Brown, and they say, oh, this guy, ran a 4.45 at his pro day. He can run. I've watched some of his tape. I watched a highlight of him, and I watched one game of his. He's impressive, but you're not going to be playing Sacred Heart at the next level. I don't think he's going to be drafted. I think they're doing their homework on him in case they don't score a running back in the draft, or they do get a running back, but they also want to add a guy for competition purposes, like Jarrett Patterson, for instance, to push him because, he doesn't have to make the practice squad either. They can move on from Jarrett Patterson altogether. A guy like, Ronnie Brown may be the guy that they look to maybe push a Jarrett Patterson and maybe have another guy on the roster. We'll see. Dorian Williams, linebacker out of Tulane. I was not impressed with him. He's a super athlete. I thought he was so confused. I watched him in a couple of games to get a feel for what he was doing. And he actually, had a forced fumble in one of the games I watched. He had an interception in the other game that I watched. So it's not like he wasn't making any plays, but he was so lost on 85% of the snaps I watched him on, had no idea where the football was going. He was so hesitant to trigger downhill. Guys are getting to him to the second level. He doesn't get off of blocks very often. He's one of those run and chase linebackers that if you keep him clean, he's a problem. But if he can't keep himself clean, then it's not going to end well for him. I don't love him. I don't love him in space. He can run, but I wasn't overly impressed. And so we'll see what happens with him. Again, you put him in a defense, you give him a specific set of duties, and maybe he ends up being a damn good football player. Again, got a great athletic profile. That's what teams are looking for at the linebacker position. He fits that bill. But from an instinct standpoint, he is lacking severely. And that's truly what I'm looking for. I'm sick and tired of the guys that have athletic skills but don't have the instincts. I'm looking for an instinctual linebacker. That's what I'm looking for. He's not it to me. Chase Brown, I've already told you, love this kid. He can catch it out of the backfield. He can run it. I think his biggest deficiency is in between the tackles in short yardage situations. He can run in between the tackles. So this is my thing with Chase Brown. If you're not going to put him in a zone run blocking scheme, if you're not going to have outside zone, inside zone, if we're not having zone scheme here in Washington anymore, remember, that was the biggest part of our run game was zone. We were outside, inside zone team under Scott Turner. If that's going to change under Eric Bieniemy, and we're going to be more of a power team, which I think we may be more of a power team, but if there's not going to be outside, inside zone, then Chase Brown isn't the right man for you. To me, he's the quintessential zone running back. He's very, very patient, takes his time, presses the hole, sticks his foot in the ground, gets up the field, can make guys miss, good contact balance, can catch it out of the backfield, will put his body on the line in pass protection. Love everything about Chase Brown other than short yardage situations. Well, we got B-Rob and Antonio Gibson for that. We don't need him for that. So I think he fits everything that we're looking for in a running back, and I would love to add him. But the problem is, now, here's what I'm hoping. This is a deep running back class. All right? I'm hoping he gets pushed to day 3, okay? Because what we all think, the assumption is that only one running back is going in the first round. All right? We all know this, Bijan Robinson. After that, who knows how much teams value the running back position this early in the draft, per se. I think you're going to start to see a run on running backs late second into the third. I'm hoping our guy Chase Brown doesn't get swept up into that, and he gets pushed because there's so many of them. He gets pushed to the 4th round, and then we would be able to maybe make a selection. I don't think we're going to take him in the 3rd round is what I'm telling you. I think we're going to make a running back selection in day number 3, not day 2. I think they're more likely to pull the trigger on his teammate, Quan Martin, in the 3rd round than they would Chase Brown in the 3rd round. So I'm hoping he gets pushed to the 4th round, and then we have, at least give me the option, right? Give me a choice to have him on the board at the time of our fourth round selection at 118. We'll see what happens. But I love this kid. I'd love to add him to the team. And then Kyle Soler, or Soli, the linebacker out of ASU, it's nothing there for me. You know, tall kid, you know, long, athletic, pause. But again, nothing on tape jumped out at me, man. Just another one of these dudes hesitant to pull the trigger and go downhill, make tackles. A guy that waits for the action instead of taking the action to the opposition. Again, we don't know what they're being taught to do. They are ex-linebackers, even though they haven't done a great job of bringing linebackers here in Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera. But they know what they're looking for at the linebacker position. So, again, he's a late round draft pick. I don't think he's a guy you have to spend a day 1 or 2 or even an early day 3 draft selection on. You want Kyle Soli. He'll be available in the 6th, 7th round. So it may even go undrafted. You never know. I don't love him. You can do better than that. I'd be disappointed if the only guy they drafted was Kyle Soli. I'd be disappointed because, again, you're just throwing another Band-Aid solution at something that needs real attention done to it. Like, don't just... If you're going to put a Band-Aid on it, at least throw some peroxide in there, put a little bit of Neosporin, a little ointment on it, and then put the Band-Aid and apply the Band-Aid on it. Don't just put a Band-Aid on it and we see the blood coming through the Band-Aid knowing the wound's still open. That's what drafting a guy or just bringing in a guy like Kyle Soli would be for me. Like we did last year when we just had Drew White as an undrafted rookie linebacker that ultimately got hurt in camp, that I thought had a shot to make the team. You know, that's what getting a guy like him would be for me. So anyway, those are the 5 guys that we can add to the official visits list. That brings the total to 18. So Washington has 12 official visits left ahead of the draft, which is roughly 2 weeks away. So I'll keep you posted on these visits and what they're looking for. And they continue to go right around what I think they should be doing, right? They're sniffing around players at positions that we definitely need to be looking to upgrade. So job well done by them. And I like the players that they've had for visits thus far to this point. Couple of them, don't love Ronnie Brown out of Shepherd, but they wanted to get to know the kid. They don't know him. He wasn't at any of the, extracurricular activities after the season, all the All-Star games. He wasn't at the Combine. So they probably wanted to get to know the kid. So he's a little bit of a showboat, one of those guys. He runs for a touchdown and he's straddling the goal line type of kid. So maybe they just wanted to get to know him. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. The big reason I came was Devin White, star linebacker of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, requested a trade today. All right, obviously it's one of the biggest needs we have on our team. So naturally, every Washington fan wants to know, are you interested in Devin White? So do I. I want to know, are you interested in Devin White? So let's give you a little bit of background information. He's 25 years old, still on his rookie deal, going into the last year of his rookie deal. He wants a new deal. The Buccaneers don't really want to give him a new deal quite yet. The Buccaneers don't want to trade him. So let's first understand that the Bucs don't want to move him, okay? This is very, very similar, eerily similar to the situation we had with the Bears and Roquan Smith last year. Roquan Smith wanted a new deal. Bears didn't want to give it to him. He said he wanted to be traded. He held out of, practices. He showed up because you have to with the new CBA. He showed up at practices, but he didn't practice, right? He ended up saying, you know what, to hell with this. It's not going to benefit me to not play. He ended up playing, and then he got traded before the trade deadline to the Ravens. Then he got a $100 million contract. They gave up a 2nd-round pick for him. So right now, what I'm hearing, the going rate for Devin White, so if you're interested, a 2nd and a 4th is what they're looking for at a bare minimum. They really want a 1st, okay? They're not going to get a 1st from any team that doesn't have multiple 1sts, okay? So a team like Philadelphia, who has 2 firsts, and they pick up the phone and say, hey, are y'all interested in trading Devin White? And the Bucks are not really. And the Eagles say, I'll give you number 30. And the Bucks could say, hey, you got a deal. Eagles have 2 first-round picks, right? You could see Howie Roseman doing some shit like that. So, anyway, if they get a first from someone, it'll be in a situation like that. That's what I think. But I think more likely than not, they're going to fetch a second, no worse than a second, because Roquan went for a second. And they're probably saying, our guy's better than Roquan. Throw in a fourth and you have a deal. I was looking to split the difference there, and I was like, I'm only willing to part ways with a 3. And, we have a compensatory third round pick. So that's 97th overall. I'll give you 97 for him. I'm not giving you my 2nd round pick, and I'm not giving you my 4th round pick, unless you just take the 4th rounder, which they're not. They want the 2nd rounder, and the 4th is what's going to ultimately get the deal done, right? So are you interested in Devin White for a 2nd and 4th if that's the price? If that's the price, the price. Remember, you have to sign him to a long-term deal as well, okay? He wants big-time money. You saw what Roquan Smith got last year. He's probably thinking, I want that kind of money, all right? Now, it may not be exactly the same. I don't know what his credentials are. I don't know if he's ever been an all-pro linebacker in this league. But he's been a Pro Bowl linebacker for sure. He's a Super Bowl winner. And thus, he's going to command big money. If you were to trade for him, you're going to have to pony up. All right? So, again, that's something to take into consideration before you just say, yeah, trade for him. Go get him. But these kind of guys don't grow on trees. This guy ran a 4.42 at the combine. He's the fastest linebacker in the NFL, and it's not close. When you watch his speed, it looks different than every other linebacker in the entire NFL. All right. Now, there have been questions about his motor. Now, he tried to say that he was gassed and he was tired. There have been games where it looked like he took his foot off the gas pedal. And a guy turns the corner on him. You're like, Devin, you're fast enough to get him. Why didn't you just get him there? And he looks like he's loafing. And people have questioned his desire, his heart. Does he really want it? I think the Bucks have questioned that. Part of the reason they haven't given him the deal that he's looking for yet. So, again, there are question marks here. All right? So, buyer beware. Anyway, keep in mind, the Bucks don't want to trade him. That's the first step. They've got to be willing to move him. And right now, it doesn't make any sense to me for them to do anything with Devin White, because he's one of the best players, if not the best player they have defensively. So, I don't think it's a good idea for them to move him, but for the right price, just about anybody top half of the league quarterback can be had, okay? For the right price. Unless you got an elite left tackle, elite corner, elite pass rusher, elite quarterback, just about anybody can be had, especially if there's squabbles over money. Devin White, I think ultimately only wants to be traded. I don't think he wants out of Tampa because he can't stand the organization. I think he just wants to be paid. And he doesn't think he's going to get the money in Tampa, so he wants to go somewhere where he will get it. Again, this is the Roquan Smith situation all over again. Same exact thing. Roquan Smith, this time of the year, last year, he started squabbling with the Bears, wanted to be paid. He was going into the last year of his contract, wanted to be paid. The Bears said, we're not paying you anything. New management had just gotten there, new GM, new head coach. They weren't paying him anything. And he squabbled over that, ended up sitting out for a little while, played, ended up getting traded before the trade deadline, got his money from the Ravens. Could a similar situation happen here in Tampa? Maybe. But whatever happens, are you interested in Devin White? Would you be willing to part ways with whatever the asking price is? Let's just assume that it's a 2 and a 4. Are you willing to part ways with the 47th pick in this year's draft and the 118th pick in this year's draft? That's Washington's 2 and their 4. Would you be willing to part ways with that for Devin White, which you will ultimately have to sign to a long-term deal as well? Let me know down in the comment section. I'm interested to see how you guys feel. I, myself, am not willing to give up 2 draft picks for a guy like Devin White, who we have some questions about, the motor and this, that, and the third. And I just feel like that particular position, while he's an athletic freak and they don't grow on trees, That's a lot of money to be invested in a position that not a lot of teams invest a lot of money into. So for me, personally, find a guy in the draft. You guys are linebackers, right? Jack, you're an ex-linebacker. Ron, you're an ex-linebacker. Find a guy. We shouldn't have to go trade for a guy, give up multiple draft picks. We got holes on this roster. It's not like we're 2 or 3 pieces away. We got holes on this roster. Draft a guy that has an athletic profile that's good enough that can get the job done. He's not going to be Devin White. Now, if all it took was a 3rd rounder, sign me up. I'm not giving up 2 draft picks for him. I'll give up one. You might be able to tempt me in the 2nd round. Hell, we don't do well with 2nd rounders anyway, right? You might be able to tempt me with just a 2nd rounder, like the Ravens gave up. If you add in an extra draft choice, I'm not doing it. That's where I got to draw the line. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Got to draw the line in the sand somewhere. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. We will reconvene on Thursday, barring anything happening major in the world of the Commanders. We will reconvene Thursday night live for the Command Post Live. Until then, you guys have a good one. Take care.
LouieTeeNetwork.